I already know it's not good because I know that I ruin everything when I'm laughing so hard that I can't even get through it. It means it's ruined, and no one else is going to find it as funny as I do. But please go ahead.
What happened to the frog's car?
It got towed. So wow. See. I don't think it's official.
Hey
Oh my
guys,
God, that's
friendly
good.
reminder to mute yourselves.
Please
mute your mics, everybody. Thank you.
All right, looks like people are coming in. Good morning.
Hi, Agnes.
Hi, good morning. I don't know about you all, but I just want to go get in my car and go for a drive now and see what I can see. Susan, just as a heads up, folks should be muted, but you may have to mute them as they come in.
Okay, I'll check here.
Yeah, I got the settings set up, but it looks like you'll hear kind of noise. For some reason something wasn't working. I don't know.
It looks like everyone's muted so far.
Okay, just don't unmute, you guys. Also, I just gotta give a shout out to Region 3 from the last presentation. I was loving the engagement from Region 3. So if you are new to state parks, you will notice that there is a little bit of a competition amongst the regions. We don't really talk about it, but I just want to say that I was super stoked to see all the engagement from Region 3. So thanks everybody for doing that. It was awesome to see. All right, we got a couple minutes. I'm going to go run away really quick and
you don't need a moderator.
We don't need a moderator. We're all good. I'm going to go grab another La Croix, which you can't see with my camera, but I'm going to go grab one. I'll be back in 1 second. Okay.
Did we determine how many attendees there should be?
I'm not sure what the number is, Susan, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
But I think it depends because some people are logging in on their computers and personal computers, and others are logging in from the park computers.
We're only at 40 right now.
Okay. I have a feeling people are probably
41.
Yeah, it's good to get away from
it. Was right around 75 in that last session, I think, at the peak.
Okay, thank you. So we're a little short right now.
I also appreciate everybody who I see that's wearing their uniform shirts to training. As a fan of uniforms, the one person, I don't know if he's logged in yet, who's bringing the party to training. You'll find out in a moment. You'll see who that is.
Do you have yours on?
Oh yeah, I've got my polo on. I've got my admin shirt on. You better believe it. I sleep in these things.
Always ready to go, Agnes.
Always ready to go. I'm just waiting for the day when I get a state parks logo tattooed and I can just be like, yep, there we go. I'm wearing my uniform.
Get the maple leaf.
I should get a maple leaf.
No,
Maybe
the one with the old logo.
Oh, I actually have one of those, Susan. Hang on, I can show you something really, because my predecessor was amazing. This is actually a fun random state parks trivia thing. It used to be, and Susan, you'll probably agree with this, remember this, back in the day, they used to hand out these little pins, the maple leaf pins, and people, we don't do it anymore, and maybe we should bring it back, but there's a lot of pride in the maple leaf pin. And I remember when I got mine, and it was like a whole handshaking ceremony and very exciting. So yeah, maybe I'll get a maple leaf tattoo. That would be a little overboard though, if I'm
We're up to 51.
getting a state parks tattoo. Oh,
We're
all
up to
right.
51. So 52.
Okay. All right.
They're all starting to come on. So
Cool.
let's give it a few
Yeah,
seconds, minute or so.
totally. I'm fine with that.
It's tough to follow, Rebecca. That was an awesome presentation. And who wants to leave that to come and talk more about COVID?
Yeah, I know. There's the guy that's bringing the party to today. That would be Reuben Allen. Nice shirt, Reuben.
I'm joining you from my current vacation at Button Bay State Park.
I love it. I'm at Albert Dunes, if anybody is wondering. Ryan was at I don't know where some other people are, but we've got people will notice too throughout the training. We've got some cool. Susan's at her office. Good on her. Rob's on. Where are you, Rob? Talking about Mansfield, I think. We've got some cool backgrounds of different.
Where am
parks.
I, Agnes?
Nick, I can't see you, so I'm not sure where you are.
Can't see me.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
I can't see you. This is what happens. Maybe I need to do large view. And this is fun, you guys, to fiddle around with the different views. Ooh, yeah, there's everybody. All right, cool.
We're at 64, 65.
Nice.
So I could just do my intro stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Before you guys get rolling. We're at 67 now. So wasn't Rebecca's talk awesome? Now for the nature of COVID, yay, which is another type of nature. As we enter our second season of operating parks during a global pandemic, this class will discuss the current COVID guidelines for the start of the season. Hello and welcome to part 1 of COVID that will be presented by Reuben Allen, our region manager from Region 2, and Agnes Barsalow, can't speak now, Region 3 Ops Manager. My name is Susan Bomer, and I'll be the moderator for this session. I will start the recording as soon as they start, and it will be recorded for the duration. Please keep your microphone muted, and please keep your camera on so that we know that you're engaged during the session if you can have your camera. We'll be using the chat as a question and answer, so please type your questions in the chat. I will be reviewing them, and at the end of the session, there will be a Q&A session. But if I can answer your questions during the session, I will type the answer in the chat. And if not, the presenters will answer at the end of the session. I also will be posting the link again for attendance. I did early on in the chat, but everyone has kind of signed in now, so I'll post that again so that you can sign in for the session. And with that, ta-da, here are our presenters, Reuben and Agnes. And let me get this recording going.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Thanks, Susan. So out of the gate, I just have to say to everybody, Rebecca crushed it and is amazing and is a wizard, clearly on her computer as she jumped around from place to place. Me, not so much. So this could be a little clunky. So just bear with it. And hopefully things will go smoothly. I really appreciate everybody being here. So just as a reminder, if you can mute your microphones, that would be fantastic. Cool. Great. All right. Sweet. So, COVID.
Agnes,
Yeah.
Agnes, before you start, I'm going to spotlight Agnes now. So she's going to be doing most of the talking. So she'll probably be in the center of your screen starting in about right now. So
Okay.
your show, Agnes.
Wow. Spotlighted. Okay. Thanks, Reuben. We'll see how this goes. So Reuben's presenting with me. So hey, Reuben, nice to see you. Reuben and I have it's been fun, as much as you can say. We're getting a training like this put together, but it's been really nice working with Reuben. You'll notice that the title of this class is COVID 1, and we had a COVID part 2. But as many of you are aware, a lot of things with COVID have been changing, and they've been changing really quickly. I know that Rebecca's, session before was really fun and really engaging. This one's the dry and the boring stuff. And this is also some of the serious stuff as well, too, because those of you who worked for us last year know that last year was a tough year. We did a great job. I am absolutely humbled by the work that everybody did. And the general public is also humbled by the work that we did. So we're amazing and a resilient organization. And I think that we were tested last year and we did a wonderful job. So in this training, we're going to be throwing a lot of information at you. Some of it may not be absorbed, and I totally understand that. And also some of these trainings, we're going to be throwing a lot of information at you. And we understand that not all of it's going to get absorbed because it's a new format, and 2, it's a lot of info. So this training is not going to be a blockbuster hit. There will not be any awards at the end, although Rebecca's, I think, could definitely get one. This one's going to be pretty dry. So sorry in advance. Wah, wah, wah. If you do want, we can, there's going to be some keywords that I'm sure you're going to hear. And if anybody wants to throw out some keywords that you might think of when talking about COVID, maybe we can play a coffee drinking game so everybody stays awake during this. But hopefully it's cut and dry to the business and a little brass tacks. So last year, just to give you a perspective, at this point in time, or when we were opening up parks, we didn't know if we were going to be opening up parks. And it was a scary time last year. We were still, I was washing cans when we got word that we were going to be having a park season. We didn't know if we were going to be having a season. The governor asked us to do so. And we went forward and we did a great job. And going through, as we progress forward, I feel really confident that how we're going, the path that we're on is looking really good. So we didn't know what things were looking like last year. We came up with a plan and we did it and we executed it. This winter, behind the scenes, we've been working on the plans for what we are going to do this summer, and we had things lined up and dialed in. And if you were paying attention watching the news on April 9th, we got new guidance, and that changed everything quickly. So that was less than a month ago, we got guidance, which means we had to change our operating plan. And changing an operating plan doesn't just mean that Nate sits in his office and comes up with something and says, here you go, this is what's going to happen. We all worked collectively to come up with these, keeping your health and safety in mind, and also keeping our park visitors' health and safety in mind. That said, when we got that guidance, I think it's important to say out loud to all of you that when we get the guidance, you're getting it at the same time that we do. So we don't have any, sneaky-ins with the governor. He's not calling us and saying, oh, this is what's going to happen this year. We find out the information at the press conferences, the same time the general public is. We might get some glimmers of things, but we don't know what's going to happen until the press conference happens. So that said, this summer, if you feel like it, tune into the press conferences when you can. I think it's really good to stay in the loop, especially being in the tourism industry, because people will be asking a lot of questions. We are going to have a PowerPoint. It's not as cool as Rebecca's, but it's still pretty good. And I think one important thing that I want to say out loud, I said this a lot to my staff last summer, and I still need to say it again this year, that we're all human beings. And we are still navigating this pandemic together, still doing it. 14 months later, we're still doing it. So that said, there are definitely going to be some changes in the coming months. They may happen rather quickly. And it's our job for sure to ensure that we get this information out to you. But we also you have to understand that we got to get the information first before we can get it out to you. So that's why it's good to stay tuned into the news. A great example of this is that you are required by VOSHA to complete a COVID workplace training on your first day of work. So that's an important thing for those of you who worked for us last year. You'll remember that training that Ethan and Rob did. We have to do a different training this year. So no, I say first day of work. So everybody's like, well, we've been on payroll since Sunday and today's Tuesday. Well, we had to get you that training because VOSHA just released it on Friday. So just to kind of give you an idea, everything is still moving and it's moving really quickly. And we are trying to stay on top of everything as much as we can. But in the end, remember, we're still human and we're working through this. So I'm going to show you quickly if my tech skills are working right, where you are going to want to go to find that training. And internet, work for me, work for me, work for me. I think I've got it. All right, so in order to, where you're going to find that training is you are going to go to our parks website, the staff website, which is vtstateparks.com/staff. I hope everybody can see this. If not, somebody, I don't know, somebody unmute and tell me you can't see it. So this is our staff website. And here we have COVID-19 updates, and we have all the documents that are on here. We have our operating plan, which Reuben and I will discuss in a moment. This is the training that I'm talking about. Everybody's going to want to do this training. And when you're done, please complete the certificate at the end of it and submit it to your regional operations manager. Or if you have a technician like Jane or Kim or Shannon, Barb, send it along to them so they can put it on your file. Good news for everybody. We just got word too that we no longer have to do the health screening form. So this is gone. Last year, folks that worked for us, we had to do those. We again just found this out. We've been busy making lots of updates to the website. So this is just one of those little housekeeping things we got to take care of. So that's going to be gone. Don't worry about that. So that's good news for everybody who started off their shifts last year doing the health screening form. That's gone. No longer have to do that. So when you can get a chance, go and take a look at the VOSHA training. It's super simple. I think it's all of 10 minutes, whereas last year was like a half hour plus. So this is quick. You're going to have all of your staff do this. So first day of work, have them do this training. It's a really important training. The operating plan, again, we're going to talk about the key points in this training. Get familiar with this. You'll notice that it's going to be really different than what last year looked like. And that's a good thing, you guys. That's a really good thing. That means that we're heading in the right direction. So I'll just click on it because it's fun to use technology. So here is our operating plan. You can see that we updated it April 25th because again, guidance has been changing so quickly. Last week alone, the governor came out with news that, masks were, it's different when you're outside as long as you can physically distance. There's a lot of change definitely happening. So things to be aware of, keep your eye on that. And make sure that you do that training. Another point too that I want to bring up is on my notes. This summer is definitely going to be busy. We're probably going to be busier than we were last summer, and last summer was a record-breaking season. So that's always that's a good thing for us. And it's going to be a great thing for you. And I'm sure that people are going to be coming in and being super psyched to be out in parks. So just be prepared for a busy season. We have kept that in mind when planning for park operations, that we do think it's going to be a busy season. And we're psyched. The bottom line is that means that people are getting outside, engaging with Vermont State Parks, engaging with the outdoors for all the reasons that Rebecca talked about in the previous presentation. So from there, we are going to do a PowerPoint where Reuben and I will talk about the dry and boring stuff, which is the COVID, some more of the inner workings of it. So let me share my screen, and this is where I fumble the most. So bear with me, y'all, and hopefully it should work. And I just got to change it. All right. My computer is loading very slowly. All right. Can everybody see that?
Not yet, Agnes.
Not yet. Okay. It was loading really slowly. So let me try again. Hold, please.
I'm able to see it.
You're able to see it? How about this one?
I can see it.
Can you see it now?
Yes,
Okay, cool. All right. And is it do you just see Spock, or do you see a bunch of my notes and all sorts of other things?
just the first slide.
All
For
right.
the 2021 park season, we're entering our second year of
Can you
park
hear it?
operations during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Can Reuben, can you let me know if you can hear it?
Yes,
Yes.
Agnes, it's working.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. Sorry. Thanks. And let's see.
For the 2021 park season, we're entering our second year of park operations during the COVID-19 pandemic. Thankfully, we know we can safely and effectively operate parks in 2021 because we did it last year. And we know so much more about the virus than we did 1 year ago. For those of you who worked for Vermont State Parks in 2020, you will notice that our approach to managing parks in the pandemic will be different in some ways than it was last year. You will also notice that our approach is much the same in other ways as it was in 2020. This manager training that we're participating in right now is obviously being conducted remotely, and this is due to the continued social distancing guidelines in place. This year, we know much more about the disease and how it's transmitted than we did last year. We know that touch points are less of a concern, as the vast majority of COVID transmission is airborne. We know that there will be challenges operating the parks in the face of the pandemic again this year, but we know that you are all up for the task of doing this and doing it successfully. The past 14 months have been very difficult and very challenging for all of us. We've all had to make sacrifices. We all know someone who has contracted the virus. Some of us in this training may have even contracted the virus. Many of us know someone who has lingering effects of the virus. And unfortunately, many of us also have friends or family who have died from COVID-19. So before we move forward in this training, let's just take a minute to recognize all of the challenges that we've faced. And let's pay a moment of respect to those who have passed as a result of coronavirus. For the 2021 park season, we're entering our second year of park operations.
That's
during
not
the
supposed to
COVID-19
happen.
pandemic. Wrong slide, Agnes. Thankfully,
Okay.
we know we can.
There we go. Okay. Going forward, your safety, the safety of your staff, and the safety of our visitors is definitely a concern for all of us. That said, we have some actions that will be put in some place, and also some activities and or park offerings might remain a little limited this summer for us to meet this goal. So we're going forward, and we're going to follow CDC recommendations, the governor's executive orders, and the universal guidance that he has put into place. As part of Vermont state government, we have a responsibility to take a conservative approach. Even as restrictions are lifted, we need to ensure the health and safety of everyone who lives at, works in, and visits a Vermont State Park. Okay. There we go.
Please remember that we don't get to make the rules when it comes to our response to the COVID-19 pandemic. All of our decisions are guided by the course that the pandemic has taken and by the guidance given by the CDC and Governor Phil Scott's administration. Some of the information that we provide you in this presentation might be contradicted by guidance that is given in the future, should things change with the pandemic and the guidance given by the CDC and Governor Scott's administration change. As we all know, flexibility and patience has been key to all of us getting through this over the past year and more, and will continue to be critical to ensure our success in operating the parks again in the 2021 season. Please remember that we don't get to make the rules when it comes to our response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Did it play the same one again?
All of our
That's right,
decisions are
Agnes,
vested.
yes.
I told you guys I'm not good at this.
So we're following the governor's Vermont Forward phase plan for reopening. As you can see in this handy dandy visual graphic, we are included in the Group A sector. All right, see that under step 1? That's where we are. And the goal is that by July 4th, enough people will be vaccinated that most restrictions under the governor's plan will be removed. So keep your eye open, listen to the press conferences, and we'll also be sending emails if there are any sort of pertinent or valuable updates that you should know about. That said, we as Vermont State Parks are consciously taking a conservative approach to this guidance. In the next few slides, we'll dig into more of what this will mean for you and for all of us as a whole. So we're following the governor's Vermont Forward.
I can't get this right, but I'll get it figured out eventually by the end.
In this phased plan for reopening under the Vermont Forward Plan, guidelines during the first part of the park season will be different than guidelines later in the summer. From now through July 3rd, universal guidance is required. This means that all Vermonters and visitors to Vermont are required to stay home if they're sick, wear a mask when in the presence of others, practice social distancing, practice good hygiene, and to think before they travel. We'll talk more about what the changes starting July 4th mean for you and our visitors in just a moment.
All right, so what are some of the changes, some of the things that need to be put into place that we got to do as a lodging facility in Vermont State Parks? Number 1 is we need to take care of the certificate of compliance. Those of you who are returning, you might have just cringed. Those of you who are new, you might be like, what's a certificate of compliance? Long and the short, a certificate of compliance is a document that campers, we don't need to use these in day use parks, campers need to sign off, basically certifying that they are following the governor's universal guidance. Basically, they either need to be vaccinated, they need to have been here for 3 days and gotten tested with a negative test. They need to have gotten tested before they left their home state 3 days prior and gotten a negative test. It's also certifying that they are feeling healthy. As Reuben mentioned in the previous slide, they got to be healthy. So that being said, this is a document that we'll have out in the parks, and you only need to fill them out until June 1st. Or campers, I should say, only need to fill them out until June 1st. So we just got to make it through Memorial Day weekend with these. Basically going to hand it over to the camper, ask them to fill it out, and then you hang on to it for 30 days, and then we get to put them away.
As I mentioned just a few moments ago, the rules change starting July 4th for Vermonters and visitors to Vermont under Governor Scott's Vermont Forward Plan. As of July 4th, universal guidance is no longer required. It is now encouraged. So this means that people are still encouraged to stay home if they're sick, to wear a mask when in the presence of others, to practice social distancing, to practice good hygiene, and to think before they travel. As I mentioned previously, this guidance remains required for all of our park staff while at work and while in the presence of others.
All right, so what are some of the things that are going to be going on throughout the season, no matter what? Number 1, first things first, we're gonna have interpretive programs back. Yay! They were definitely missed last summer, and this year, based on the universal guidance that we have received from the governor, it looks like we can most definitely have interpretive programs. The one difference is, wait for it, we're gonna host them all outside. A novel idea for Vermont State Parks. All right, so what are some of the things?
Those of you who worked for us last year are aware that we suspended selling merchandise in 2020. But I'm happy to report that we're back to selling park merchandise again this year. We're doing this because we know that we can do it safely, as COVID transmission is highly unlikely to be passed through touch points. There are a few changes this year compared to pre-COVID merchandise sales, however. Visitors may not try on any clothing items prior to purchase. Once items are purchased, they may only be returned if they're damaged or defective. A refund or replacement should then be given. And as always, please remember to practice good hygiene. This means washing or sanitizing your hands before and after handling items. These are just a few added layers of security that we're putting in place to ensure the safety of you, all of our staff members, and our visitors.
So what's up with concessions? Might be wondering about that. Well, we got some updates for concessions and boats. Some concession stands will be open for. So what's up with concessions?
So
Might be wondering
boats.
about that.
What's up with
Okay, never mind. I'm going to free range that one. I did something weird with that click. So concessions and boats, and I'll also make sure everybody's awake. So the story with concessions and boats is that we are going to be doing boat rentals this year. It's going to be at a limited number of parks. And we chose that, we decided to do that because when we, as I was talking about before, when we decided to roll out that operating plan that we had for this winter, we knew that there was still going to be a lot of moving pieces. So we wanted to make sure that our staff felt that what they were doing was going to be manageable. So as for parks that are renting boats, your regional staff will be in touch with you if you will or won't be renting boats at your parks. And then we do have some new cleaning protocols set in place for boat rentals. It's nothing crazy though. And then as for concession stands, oh yeah, Reuben. No, as for concession stands, we will be offering some concessions. It will be limited to just prepackaged food, but we will be offering some concession stands will be open. All right, next one. Now we're on to pavilions.
With our conservative approach to operating parks in the 2021 season, we are not renting or making available to the public any of our enclosed meeting spaces. This includes the enclosed pavilions and meeting function rooms at places like Camp Plymouth, Kingsland Bay, Kilcare, Elmore, Mount Philo, and Brandbury, to name a few. We are, however, renting our outdoor open-air pavilions statewide. Each of these will have a maximum capacity that has been determined by the pavilion size and allows 6-foot social distancing for visitors under the pavilion roofs. This occupancy will be posted on the pavilion with signs that will be made available to you. Your regional staff will provide you with the maximum occupancy levels for pavilions in the parks where you work. Groups exceeding pavilion limits may utilize the larger pavilion areas and surrounding lawns. Groups may also bring in their own tents. Ensuring physical distancing under these privately owned spaces is the responsibility of the visitors. All of this is in line with Governor Scott's guidance. This means that people can resume gathering in parks and having family reunions and barbecues where they serve Uncle Jim's famous coleslaw, celebrating birthday parties, weddings, and more. Just remember, for you and your staff, you are not the COVID police, and you are not there to require people to socially distance. Your job is to give them the guidance, tell them the rules, post the maximum occupancy, and give them the opportunity to take personal responsibility to do what they should be doing.
All right, if anybody wants to make the chat exciting, if people want to add in what they think Uncle Jim's potato salad recipe might be, we are taking submissions for Uncle Jim's potato salad recipe. Or if you have a good potato salad recipe, feel free to enter it into the chat.
With our
One thing that we learned about last year is that our parks look really good without picnic tables, but people wanted picnic tables. And also, as we've talked about a couple of times already, touch surfaces, we have learned a lot that they are no longer really a thing. So that said, we're putting picnic tables back. We have all regionally realized that we don't need as many picnic tables out as there have been in years past. So that said, the number will be determined by your regional staff. So before we put all the picnic tables out, talk to your regional operations manager or manager before doing so.
So our cleaning procedures during this, our second year of the COVID-19 pandemic, are changing too quickly for us to include in this presentation. Rest assured that the cleaning procedures are far less onerous than they were in 2020. I think this will be great news to those of you who worked in a park last year. All of our cleaning procedures are in compliance with CDC and Vermont Department of Health guidance. You'll get more information about the specific cleaning procedures from your regional staff through your regional meetings and or park walkthroughs.
Since we started working on this PowerPoint presentation, I can't tell you how many times we have redone this slide, and that's because the rules have changed so many times since we started working on this. So a couple of things I just want to throw out there to you for food for thought. Number one, we are not the COVID police. So what does that mean? If you see two people sitting closer than 6 feet together, we do not run up to them and tell them that they cannot sit next to each other. If you see somebody coughing, we cannot assume that they have COVID and we cannot tell them to leave the park. If you see somebody coming in with out-of-state plates, we can't assume that they're from out of state and they have COVID. We can't profile them. It's not cool. They could have been living down the road in a camp and they haven't seen anybody in over a year. We can't profile. We can't be the COVID police. We gotta let people come and enjoy the outdoors. Things we can do is we can ensure that we put appropriate signs and information up around the park as needed. There will be some signs that we are working on for the 2021 season, but we're gonna wait to get those out to you until things are looking like a solid plan, but they'll be in the mail soon, promise. Also, remind visitors of any guidelines at that time. For example, masks, we wanna make sure that people are wearing them when they approach you. Or also, you know, if there's a maximum occupancy in a building, you might wanna remind people of that as well too.
As has already been mentioned, universal guidance remains required for all of our staff while at work. This means that all of you will be required to continue to wear masks when in the presence of others. We do this because we want you to feel safe and we also want you to stay safe. Please remember to also maintain physical distancing while eating meals and to eat your meals in areas with strong ventilation. Examples of this might be under your favorite tree, in the garage with the door open, or alone in your car. Please, however, avoid eating in the contact station as you're not able to provide good customer service when doing so. As has already.
You'd think by now.
So what kind of PPE will be involved this summer? Long and the short, we're just going to ask that all of our staff, when in the presence of others, even after July 1st, wear masks. We have them available for you and your staff, and this year we even have fancy double layer buffs. They're pretty fancy. Plastic face shields aren't going to fly, and we will ask that you wear masks even when in the contact station working behind the plexiglass that is set up.
Is everybody still awake? I hope so.
So what happens if a staff member contracts COVID? The first thing is to ensure that that staff member is quarantined. If they notify you while at work, send them home immediately, have them quarantined. If they notify you via email, phone, text, tell them to stay at home and follow all quarantine procedures. Then Call your regional staff, who will work with park leadership in the central office and the Vermont Department of Health to determine who, if anyone, also needs to quarantine among the park staff. We will follow all CDC guidance and all Vermont Department of Health guidance to ensure that you, your staff, all of our visitors, everyone who enters our parks over the course of this season are safe and healthy.
If you have not been vaccinated, we highly, highly, highly encourage you to get signed up for a vaccine. You can do so at the Vermont Department of Health website that is listed here. Vaccinations are available at no cost, and anyone working for us qualifies to receive one. You can list the park address as your address if you're living in park housing.
Thankfully, there certainly is a light at the end of this very long tunnel we've all been in since the pandemic began last March. It appears that we're on the cusp of returning to normality. That does not mean that we can let up just yet, however. We must remain diligent and follow all guidelines in order to ensure the safety of all park staff and visitors. The safeguards we had in place in 2020 ensured that there was no COVID spread among Vermont State Park staff and/or our visitors. Statewide, we had just one park staff person test positive during the operating season, but that did not appear to be related to work, as there was no spread among other staff or visitors. With continued care, we can ensure that 2021 is again safe for our visitors and our staff. This allows you all to do what you do best, which is providing safe, clean, and enjoyable locations for our visitors to make lasting memories with their friends and families. Thank you for all that you do, and I hope that you have a great season.
All right. So
Is that the
dry,
end?
dry, and more dry. That's what happens with COVID-19. It is not an exciting topic. So long and the short, that lays out kind of the details that folks should be aware of and mindful of when we're going forward and operating. Things are going to be changing, and we will keep you in the loop if and as there are changes. Because as I mentioned before, things change for us very rapidly, and we get the information at the same time that you all are getting information at. We do encourage you to take a look when you get a chance, look through the COVID operating plan. For those of us who worked for us last year, it was a book. Like, we had a full-on book, but granted, again, I was washing cans last year when we opted to open up. So it's much more condensed. The big takeaway that if anybody's, you're watching the news, paying attention, the guidance, CDC guidance on touch points has changed. There's different guidance now as people are getting vaccinated, which again, I highly encourage you, if you have not gotten a vaccination already, to please get a vaccination. It's important to do. And then also familiarize yourself with the different steps of when things are going to be, rolling out, the different dates. I also, with saying that, I also need to throw out the disclaimer that we need to still be cautious. People are getting vaccinations and there is a light at the end of the tunnel. But it's kind of like any of you who are skiers, it's that last lap that you take and you've had an awesome day and you're heading, you're going to go home in a little bit, and you take a run, and that's when accidents happen because you're just tired and you're going and you're just ready to take that last run. So stay cautious, stay alert. We all understand that COVID fatigue is a very real thing. And also be grace is the thing that everybody's talking about. Be gracious with yourselves. Be gracious with your park staff. You don't know what people, where they've come from, who they've lost, how this has affected them. It's a very real thing. You know, people have died. India, it's really sad seeing what's going on there. So we can't become complacent. We kept the, you know, option for COVID-2 training because we didn't know what was going to be happening. And that was just a few months ago when we were building the schedule, that we were not sure if we were going to be in another round of things blowing up. So we're lucky. Vermont's done a really great job. The governor's done a really great job, and Vermonters are really good at taking care of each other. I think if that's one thing that stands true, is that we all keep an eye out for each other. And I think that's why folks have done such a tremendous job here. So keep your head on a swivel, stay in the game, and hopefully everything should roll out nice and neatly. And hopefully we should be feeling, quote unquote, back to normal. But take it easy on yourself. Take it easy on your staff. You know, we understand that this is a lot, and there's probably going to be a lot of, you know, questions coming forward. So that said, if anybody, we've left a decent amount of time to ask questions, because I'm sure people do have a lot of questions. We will answer them to the best of our ability. We are not, you know, we don't have, again, like I said, we don't have our, you know, ear to the ground right next to the governor, but hopefully we can answer some. And one that I noticed right now, Brighton might have asked, wondering about the Canadian border. What we can tell, what we have seen thus far from different partners of ours in the tourism industry in particular, we learned from folks in the marina world, is that it's looking like the projection right now is that November is when the Canadian border is going to be opening. So we may not be seeing our neighbors to the north this summer, which is definitely a bummer, because they do bring in a lot of they're huge for our economic boost in the state. So that is a bummer that the border will be closed. Those of you who are parks that are on the border are probably like, oh my gosh, whoa. We don't have to worry about finding those signs that are in French, but we're definitely going to miss, you know, going up north and checking out our neighbors up there. From the chat, are there other questions, Susan, that you might see that we could answer, or have you been live answering them?
I have answered it, but it might be good to just for me to summarize what the questions were for you.
Sure.
There was a lot of questions circling around the COC form.
Yeah.
And does each adult need to fill out a form? And is there a location on our website for people to download the form ahead of time, which Caitlin answered and gave the link. And there was a question about old forms and quantities that they have in the parks from last year, and I answered it as a new form. So if you want to just kind of touch a little bit more on the COC form, I think that might be helpful.
Sure. Yeah. So the COC form, as I understand it, after 30 days, it can be recycled. So it's organizational systems. I'm not sure how organized folks are, if they can go through and purge after 30 days. But again, we only have to do these through June 1st. So that's huge. It's going to be a small, just going to get through Memorial Day weekend is all we have to do. I just received my box of them yesterday, so that's exciting. And I have not been able to lay my eyes on them. Again, this is new guidance that we just got with this updated form that was published. They got it out on the ACCD website very recently. So I believe, if my understanding is correct, and I could be wrong, that it's there's a line for the person who is registering and then everybody who's with that group. It basically says that they certify and attest that everybody in the group.
So does each adult have to fill out the form?
I believe, if you give me 1 second, I can lay my eyes on one. But I believe it's every adult. Yeah, hold on one moment.
Every adult needs to fill out a form. Old forms from last year can be recycled.
Sue, I believe she's getting the form, but people who are in the same household, there's a place for a couple to sign. So husband and wife, or whatever, you know, 2 adults would be able to sign for themselves and then list names of children on the same form.
Thank you, Leslie. Yeah, so it's on it. It's got, there's a section for, I don't know if you can see this. This is when you display the makeup. Behind it. So there's a section that's for dependents, so children that are under 18. They'd fill that out. And as Leslie said, There's one for people for the same household. So otherwise, long and the short, yes, every adult, unless they're from the same household, will have to fill out a form.
And everybody can go to that. It's posted on the ACCD website. You can go and click on it and learn more about it. I'm sure that it will be posted on our website for people to know in advance, but we haven't got them out to the parks yet. I don't think probably anywhere, the physical ones, because they just came in.
I should also mention one thing for folks that are returning, and you maybe have caught this on the news, is that the travel map is no longer a thing anymore. So we don't have to worry about where people are coming in from, what county it was. It's now the travel, it's changed, and it's going to change as we progress forward in the summer. And the ACCD website can be helpful, looking around, and same with the Department of Health. It's amazing to think of how much that website has changed in the past 14 months. It is pretty official looking, whereas last year, I remember when it was just one page about COVID updates.
Some other questions have come in the
Sure.
chat. So are group event sizes dependent on the park, or is there a set group size?
So group sizes, this is where it ends up getting interesting and complicated. Determined there, if people are filling out a group use form, there's no way for us to really control the group sizes, right? So there's a whole different line of vaccinated people, unvaccinated people, vaccinated people. That is changing. It is progressing forward. It's progressing forward. The one area where everybody not really needs to be super concerned is thinking about our shelters and our pavilions. Because what we want to do is we want to be able to make sure that people can physically distance. So if they're coming into a shelter, we don't want to encourage them to be getting closer together. So our due diligence is to put a cap on how many people, the size of how many people will be in the group, or under the building, not in the group, under the actual structure itself. So I hope that answers it. But long and the short, we'll probably be seeing groups coming into parks this summer.
And to ensure that people, or to really strongly encourage people not to gather in large groups under the shelter where they can't distance, we're only putting 2 tables in each shelter. But then it's everybody's just their personal responsibility to distance when they're out on the lawns and in the other surrounding picnic areas.
Okay, next question. If park staff get a vaccine and are sick with side effects, will they get sick pay?
That's a question. That's a good question. And I can't answer that question. But I will look into it and we'll get back to folks. That's an excellent question.
Next question. How many folks in restrooms this year?
That's going to be dependent. It'll be the same thing that we had for last year, where it'll be indicative on the spacing in there. Some parks, depending on the park, we will have portalets still in some parks, just so that way we can encourage physical distancing. That's the main point, is we just don't want to have people crammed in next to each other. So that's definitely something to keep in mind, and the occupancy numbers would be the same that we had posted for last year. If you're new this year, we'll get the numbers to you.
Next question, are campgrounds at full capacity?
Yes, campgrounds will be at full capacity.
No 75%.
Correct. The other thing is we will be doing cabin rentals this year. There is a different check-in and check-out time for cabins. We did that so that way people could open up windows. We're going to be putting air purifiers in the cabins as well. And then there will be a rest day for cottages. So we are very proactive. We were thinking about staff and, going in and having to clean those. So we'll be putting air purifiers in those.
Another question about group sizes. Are they still at 25? And has anyone told the weddings?
That's a great question. Right now, the group sizes, no, they're not going to be at 25. And the central office has been in contact with everybody in the office, the central office has been in touch with groups that have the shelters rented.
Okay. Old filled out forms from last year, recycled?
Recycle them, turn them into confetti. As for, I just saw one about bedding. We are getting different covers for those, so that way you can easily wash the futon covers.
Or spray them down.
Spray them down. Yeah, so you don't have to wash them the cloth. We're getting rid of the cloth. So that way there'll be a surface that can be wiped down.
All right, regarding in the presence of others, if we're having a short staff briefing outside distance, do we still wear masks?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's, you know, you want to be able to stay safe. And I think if you're outside and you're able to keep your distance, we got to be realistic about things. So distancing, you know, if you can stay apart from everybody. If you're having a meeting, I don't think it seems unreasonable amongst your staff. But we encourage people to keep masks on.
Kind of piggybacking off this question, are we following the governor's guidance of no masks outside if you can maintain 6-foot distance? You kind of answered that, but will we have a different mask expectations with staff and visitors?
We're asking that staff keep their masks on, and that guidance may change as well too. But right now we're asking that our staff keep the masks on through the entire season and after July 1st. And then as for distancing, we do have, we've got buttons now that people can put on their shirts that ask for people to give 6 feet space. And we are gonna, you know, yeah, we want you to feel safe and we want you to feel comfortable. So we will have, you know, ask that folks put on masks as they're approaching you. So and it's also the other thing that I think we've all learned when in this pandemic is people have learned to advocate for themselves more and more. So if somebody is approaching you, you could always ask them to raise their mask. But if they can't raise their mask, you just take a couple steps back and keep distance.
And the reason that we're continuing to ask our staff to wear masks, even though the guidelines may be changing, we've been given direction from the commissioner that we're taking a conservative approach to operating our parks to ensure that everybody stays safe. So we will likely continue to do things more conservatively than other places may be, because it's a responsibility that we have as, you know, as a part of state government. And it's something that the commissioner believes strongly in.
Okay, next question. So are we charging for pavilion rentals if we are essentially not providing picnic tables again?
Yes, and that's because the pavilions are steel as is.
I think you answered this one. Still having to wash cabin bedding. This is Burton Island. They have regular mattresses with covers.
We'll be getting, yeah, we're getting pleather covers, for lack of better words. So we'll have, there'll be kind of more of a plasticky surface that you can wipe down versus having to wash them, which those of you who have a cabin or cottage, it's going to be good news that you don't have to lug and tug covers into the washing machine.
So that's for futons.
Futons, yes.
This, they say regular mattresses with our cabins with cloth zip covers currently. So maybe that's a regional thing.
That might be a regional thing, yeah.
I think that's the end of the questions that I have seen.
The long and the short is there's lots of moving pieces. And again, we are going to be getting information out to you if anything changes as quick as we can. Familiarize yourself with the operating plan. If you have questions, let us know. There may be things that we missed, like somebody asked a really good question about if, you know, somebody has we got to look into that. That we're in a new phase of this and we are trying to stay as contemporary with it as we can. But again, we have to have a conservative approach to how we do this. So if you have any follow-up questions, please send them along to your regional operations manager or to your regional manager, because we want to make sure that we get this right. We'll be in communication. Do the COVID training as well, that fresh COVID training, have all your staff do that. Yeah, and thank you so much. And I'm sorry this was such a dry and boring presentation, but the fact of the matter is COVID is not something that's exciting. So we can't really bring the energy to COVID, but thank you everybody, really appreciate it. And we'll see you at 12:30 to chat about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And stay safe out there. You're wonderful people, and thanks for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.